I've got to tell you a funny story. But first, I need to give you a little bit of background on who I am and what do I do in my spare time. Some of you know, but I'm guessing the large majority of you don't know. But here's the beans. So, in my spare time, I have done stand-up comedy. I have done open mic. I have actually been part of had my actual set, been seeing my name on the the neon lights. I've had some success at it. But I want to tell you a story that took place at a local comedy club that I was going to be doing MC work at. Now this took place about a month ago. So I got there early, getting prepared. They give me a series of different cards for each comic, and who they are, where they're from, what if they've ever been on A&E, or we get a lot of comics that are on Dry Bar Comedy Hour, or if you know what that dry bar comedy is, it's basically the audience is dry and they don't curse. It's clean, wholesome comedy. And you have to keep in mind, this comedy club is part of a Catholic church. They have a coffee shop, they have a restaurant, and they have a comedy club. Okay? So I get there, I'm going through the cards and everything else, and I meet a couple while I'm outside and I'm having a cigarette. This couple is sitting there and they're all over each other. They're hugging each other, kissing each other. They're getting hot and heavy. And this is not in the parking lot. It's in a little foyer area that's inside the building, but it's actually outside, so it's legal to smoke in this area. And I make small talk with them. How you doing? They ask me, if I'm one of the comics for the night, and I tell them who I am. And I find out what they do, what kind of comedy they like, and I said, hey, you're going to have a great show if that's what what kind of comics you really like, because we have two of the four comics tonight are right up your alley of your type of comedy. So I go on my way. I get inside. I get the mic set up. Everything else that I'm supposed to do as the MC for the night. Which is introducing all the comics that as they come up. I open. I tell a few jokes. I introduce the first comic. He's the opener. Then there's a couple others, and then the headline comic. Well, the show is getting ready. People are filling in, and they sit at their table, and they actually have dinner. There, just before the open comic comes up, so they're clearing the waitress staff is clearing the tables, and I see just not the first table that's closest to the row of tables that are closest to the stage, but the next row. I see this couple, and I'm like. As I'm walking up, I said, "Hey, how you doing? Yeah, you guys are, I hope you don't mind, but where you're sitting here, you're going to be on camera. It's going to be from behind you, but you're going, and there's another one over here to the side. Some people don't like to be filmed." And this couple looked right at me, and they're like, "Well, don't show us." And I'm like, well, I don't have a choice. I can't move the cameras. They're being recorded for the actual comics. And they're the only ones that have the rights to them, and they're the only ones that can move them. And they're like, well, we can't be here. And I'm like, oh. I go, you camera shy, and thinking that's what it is. There are people who just don't want to be on camera, or they don't want their picture, and I have actually run into people who think that their souls are going to be collected if they are on camera or they have a picture taken. I kid you not. So they get up and from their table and they rush out and they ask to be seated somewhere that is not going to be on camera at all. What I've forgotten is there is a camera that is behind me at the comedy club that shows the audience itself. It's kind of dark in there, but you can't see everybody. You can see most of them, in a silhouette or, and something along that line. They come back in, the waitress seats them at another table that's about 4 rows back. And waitress comes over to me and she says, "You're never going to believe this." I go, "What?" She goes, "That couple that you were talking to that got up and abruptly wanted to change tables?" I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "They're married to other people." I go, What? She goes, they're married to other people. They're not married to each other. And they met on Tinder. And they decided to come here to a Catholic comedy club on their hookup. And I'm like, you're kidding, right? Oh man. That is something that every one of the comics needs to know. I don't need to tell them which couple in the audience it is, but I go to the back, turn around, and I walk to what's technically the green room there, and I tell every single comic, gentlemen, there is a couple in the audience tonight that met on Tinder, and they decided that they would come here for dinner and a comedy show before they go hook up. And here's the juicy part. They're married to other people, and they don't want to be on camera because, again, they're married to other people. And every single one of the comics quickly thinks through their Rolodex of, jokes that they can make that are clean and tells a story or tries to seek out and figure out which one. After the show, I asked each individual comic, did you figure out which couple it was? And they all said it was the couple at table number 16. And I'm like, how did you guys know? And they said every time we leaned forward with the microphone, they thought the camera was following them or zooming in on them. So they covered their face or they did something to obscure their actual faces. So in case they were picked up on camera, it wasn't them. That is something you just can't make up. Hooking up on Tinder, of all places, and going to a Catholic comedy club before you go back and do your bump and grind. Ha ha!